My clap sounds weak.
No.
I gotta work on my clap, man.
It's the microphone. It's just not picking up the spectrum correctly.
Man, my clap. What happened to my clap?
Have you ever asked anybody to re-record claps for a song?
Yes. Because you always get some weak ones in there.
Yeah,
you get some like real good ones, then you get some flammy ones.
I feel that clap, bro. That clap needs more emotion behind it.
Or the flammy ones are the ones that are really tricky.
Yeah. Da-da. Da-da.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys are way off.
You ever listen to the Who and stuff, and you're like, man, how did they get these claps so dead on? It's magic. It's freaking magic, man.
Yeah, no, you listen to those older records and you realize like they didn't have the same kind of like beat detective and editing capabilities that we have now, and it's like that's impressive to say the very least. It's very impressive.
Absolutely, man. Just the fact that every and like a lot of stuff done on tape, like not they didn't cut tape for everybody.
Yeah.
Like you had to be somebody if they're gonna cut it. Like they would just make you do it again, which is I think it's a good way to do it.
I think there's a good I think it's awesome that today we have tools that just in case for some reason you can't get the artist back in or the artist can't do it. I think it's great we have tools to fix things, but yeah, I think it's always better to capture it as raw and pure as possible.
Yeah, and you got to think it like back then it's like that's like a huge margin for error too. Like imagine you just cut something wrong and you're like, oh.
Dude, can you imagine how much it cost if you wanted to record stuff back then? It's like, and then you mess up when you get to the studio.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah. I mean, and there's no Apple Z. We need Apple Z.
Yeah.
That's why I can't be a doctor. It's like my whole extended Brown family wants me to be a doctor, and I'm like, I don't have Apple Z. I can't be a doctor.
Right. There's no way.
I rely on it too much.
There's no way you'd. I need the Apple Z in my life. Oh, the Command Z or whatever.
Dude, I need it. Apple Z, Command Z. Yeah, I'm like old school Apple, right?
That's hilarious.
Old school Mac, right? I still call it Apple Z.
I never thought about like how that could apply to our like Indian heritage, where it's like actually I need the undo button, so it might not be good for me to go in the medical direction.
Oops. Yeah, no, not for me, man. Not for me. Yeah, So my mom, she's from her grandparents are from India, but she grew up in Africa, in East Africa, and there's a lot of everybody was Gujarati, everybody, a lot of Indians.
I know there's a lot of Indians there, yeah.
So yeah, like it's weird because my mom's like her customs are like a blend between like traditional Indian and African, Like the food's different, the accent's different, all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
What was her like reaction to your decision to go into music?
Oh, she was happy.
Oh, that's really
She's
nice.
happy. Yeah.
That's really
nice. My parents are hippies,
Yeah.
So, yeah. They're hippies.
So is your dad from here? Is your dad from
He's from here. He's from the Bronx.
Oh, nice. When did your mom move here then?
74.
No, oh my God. That's
1974. Early. We are old, dude. We are freaking old.
That sounds like a lifetime. Well, I guess it was another generation, but I can't even think. We're in 2021. That's 50 years?
Yeah.
Almost 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
She left Africa when she was she left Africa when she was 17, lived in Pune for a year.
Nice.
And then moved to Queens, where my whole extended family lived. Because, Queens is Little India.
Right,
and now
right.
everybody moved from Queens to Jersey.
That's true. Dude, where I'm at, it's all Indian and Asian people. Everywhere.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. There's a couple of white people, but it's mainly Indian and Asian, for sure.
Yeah, my whole extended family lives in basically one part of Jersey in like Edison, New Jersey.
Oh, that's the place.
You know? Yeah,
that's the place where everybody's at. Everybody, like, I have some family in Edison, I think. Dude, we might even be related for all we know.
Dude, I remember the first time I met you was at that venue. I think it was called the Shop. Remember?
I don't remember the venue, but it was a venue. Yeah.
Yeah, so, that was cool, man.
I think what had happened was I was just curious about bands around the area, and I don't know, I can't remember how I actually came across you, but you were playing drums for a band, and I was like, oh, we should go check them out. And that's my first recollection of you. I can't remember the band's name though. You were playing drums. Yeah,
I was playing drums in the band that played that night was a band called Monster over there. Mm-hmm. But I remember you had some gig out of town and your drummer couldn't make it. I forgot. You know, I think
This sounds familiar.
Where was it? I think you were playing in Rhode Island or something. Remember that?
I do remember this. Yeah.
And I know we were trying to find you a drummer to go play the set.
So I contacted you. That's hilarious.
I'm not sure if I think that was after we had met.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's all a blur now.
I remember very clearly, dude. What had happened in that case was me and our original drummer, we just always used to butt heads all the time, but we really enjoyed playing with each other. It was like one of those, I guess you would call it a toxic relationship now, but it's like, it was a really good chemistry we had whenever we just shut up and played, but whenever we talked and tried to figure shit out, it was like, what about my parts? No, your parts suck. Like, oh, fuck you. I fuck you.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. You know, like, sometimes you get in the room with some guys and they'll start a riff or somebody will start a riff and everybody just latches onto it and you're yo, why can't it always be this easy? Why are we making it hard?
Dude, there is something to be said about chemistry between people, right? I remember I guess we fired him and then we needed a drummer last minute, and I think that might have been when I reached out to a bunch of people. I reached out to so many people.
I know. And I was trying to help you find somebody over there, so this way they're local guy. They don't have to worry about, oh yeah, I'll do it for $600, you know.
Well, here's what happened, right? The reason why we fired him was because on the day of a show, he just didn't show up. He said, I'm not coming. So I was like, dude, I love you, dude, but fuck off. And so I kind of got rid of him. But we had a show the very next, or was it the next or 2 weeks out? But it was very close, like a little weekend tour. And so do you know Munzie, the radio promoter guy?
No.
He's super cool radio promoter. He does a lot of metal radio promo for college radio stations, and I think he's gone into commercial radio stations now. But he found us a really cool drummer, so I ended up paying this dude. I think it was $300 or $400. It was quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, at the time,
he was
it was
good.
quite a bit. He was good. Oh my god. He was he's session drummer level, so it's I didn't have to worry about anything. I just came into rehearsal and he had it nailed. I was like, okay. I see why people get paid for this.
I mean, yeah, that is a tricky life, man. You know, you really have to be ready for anything. And I don't know, for me, the reason why I always find that to be really hard, and maybe in another lifetime, but just memorizing all the arrangements really fast.
Yeah,
it's hard, man.
Yeah,
it's hard to do.
So when did you start drumming then?
I started playing. It's kind of a funny story because I'm originally a bass player. But I started playing drums because the drummer would never show up. You know, so the guitar players would get pissed off and they'd be like, "Hey, we need somebody." Damn, he canceled again. And I'm like, all right, listen, I know the bass part, so I'll fill in today. And next thing you know, So I've been playing drums since I've been 15. So. It's going on 18 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap, dude. And is that
and now
your
it's my thing.
So bass was your first
intro
to music?
First love.
Wow.
I saw Flea on VH1 class on VH1. I was like, ooh, I like this. I think I could. I think this is something that interests me, and it's something that I want to learn. How
old were you when you started?
I was about. maybe like 13, maybe.
Okay, young. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
bass you did for like how many years? Or you still play?
I still play once in a while, but I was playing a lot in college, so I played till about I was like I played like, you know, I was like actually playing bass and playing gigs and stuff till I was about like, I still play gigs once in a while, but I would say like on the regular till I was about 25 or something. So
Wow,
give or take about 10, 12
that's
years.
solid. Yeah, that's a solid decade. Yeah.
Dude, you know, bass is one of those things. It's like when I have a bass in my hands, I feel at home, you know? You know?
Oh, wow.
I mean, I can't do everything, but I try to do what I can, you know, to make the song move, you know?
Yeah. It's
My
your,
favorite
it's your
bass
comfort. It's your comfort instrument.
Yeah. My favorite bass players are the guys that really hold down the rhythm and they play the harmonies, you know? I like when the bass is adding a whole level of harmony. It's like, oh man, I'm glad he didn't go to the root there. He switched it up, you know? Like Paul McCartney, you know, everybody. Geddy Lee, John Paul Jones.
Yeah.
I mean,
it takes some
John
skill
Entwistle.
to be the bass player. I think they're always going to be underrated. It just is what it is. But they're such key components.
I know, and they get so much crap. You only have 4 strings. You can't talk back.
Although maybe with the recent love with the bass frequency, hopefully they'll start getting some love. I don't know, like.
Yeah, totally, man. No, you know what? I notice it right away when I'm at rehearsal and there's no bass player.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, all my behind the beat stuff sounds not so good without the bass player.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like, man, yeah. When I go to rehearsal and there's no bass player, I feel like a part of me is missing. I feel weak, you know? There's a nice connection between the rhythm section. And I don't know. That's why, you know, when I can, I like to track everything live because I like the connection between all the players, you know. I like the feedback between all the players. And, you know, sure, if your drummer's rushing a little bit, well, you'll feel the energy and you'll rush a little bit too and you'll be together, you know. But I know we don't always have the luxury or it doesn't always work, you know. But there's something magical about when guys play in a room together, you know.
No, this is really interesting because, like, I don't think, at least in my circles, there aren't a lot of people left who are really about that kind of organic, like, communication between the musicians, not relative to the grid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really refreshing.
Absolutely.
So that tells me already, I mean, you kind of already hinted at it before, but it already tells me about some of your influences growing up. Like the kind of music you listen to, right?
I love all classic rock, man. That's my favorite stuff. And but I was listening recently. I was listening to this Pantera song, this Pantera video, the 5 Minutes Alone video. And you listen to the track, and it's like, it's huge, man. You know, and it's organic, and it was tracked on tape. You know, so you know, like, you know, you're just like, how do they do this, man? This is magic. That's real art. It's real work, you know?
It's a lot of work. Have you ever worked on tape?
I have worked on tape.
Wow.
I wasn't really engineering. I was working at my buddy's place. He had a 1-inch 8-track, which in terms of fidelity, it's basically the same as a 2-inch 16-track.
Okay.
But of course you're limited, you know, because the tape width, you know. But you're limited to 8 tracks. And, you know, it was a lot of fun because, I mean, we weren't cutting tape, you know, but we were like, you know, we'd have to ride stuff in. We'd have to, you know, all the mixes were performed. All hands on the faders. You know, if you wanted some more reverb at a part, you had to ride it. You know, if you want, like, if the cymbals were too loud, you had to bring them down. If you wanted to bring up a fill, you had to ride it up. I mean, and you had to do it in real time, you know. It was fun, man. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, he recently got a 16-track 2-inch now.
No way.
And I was talking to him, and I was like, "Oh yeah, so you know, I just asked him, you know, how far he had to travel to get it, because he's known to go to out of state and pick things up." He goes, "Dude, it was in Ridgewood.
No
I was
way.
like, Ridgewood? That's like right here.
No
so
way.
he picked it up in Brooklyn, and he's got it.
Dude, that's crazy. I would not expect that stuff to be around New York, like especially New York.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a niche, thing and a niche market, and you really have to know what you're doing because it's can be pretty limited unless you're dumping into Pro Tools and stuff, which a lot of people do. But this guy, only on tape, man.
Wow.
So when he was tracking. Yeah, when he was tracking his band on 8-tracks, he did drums and Glenn Johns. Mm-hmm. So he had actually Glenn Johns plus a snare. So he had the outside kick, a snare mic, and the Glenn Johns, one over the snare, one over the floor tom. He was using ribbons. So that's 4 mics, 4 channels for the drums. And then he mic'd up a bass cab, that's 5. Mic'd up a guitar cab, that's 6. And then there was no vocals in the band, so they had organs. So he had a Leslie in stereo, so that was 7 and 8. And that was it.
Yeah. And all live.
All live. And once you get the 8 tracks, then you could bounce and you could,
Yeah.
But yeah, analog is definitely, I mean, those engineers, man, I mean, when they see computers, they go like, I got this. Or some of them go, computers, no!
No, yeah, some of them work way faster on analog because that's what they grew up on. That's what they know,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
They're just like writing faders and EQs and stuff, and like to us it just like is mind-blowing, but at the same time we pretty much do similar things on the digital side. So
yeah.
It's like the perspective. It's like the perspective of like, what era you grew up in. It's really fascinating stuff at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, my buddy, he's in his 60s, so he's been working on tape forever. So for him, it's actually like, I'd rather not learn a whole new thing. I rather just do what I do best. And he does a great job, man.
Oh, dude, I believe it.
He kills it.
If you have the balls to work on tape and do live stuff, it means you've You've lived a life.
Sometimes I have this fantasy like, oh yeah, one day I'll buy one of the Mana machines, the refurbished MCIs, or is it Mana or is it Mara? I forgot what it is, but and then I'm thinking, oh no, I don't have patience for that. And when stuff breaks, it really breaks, man.
Oh my god, yes. Oh Jesus. That was like the one thing about analog gear is like the maintenance on it is very taxing, to say the least.
Yeah, I actually like got rid of a lot of my outboard gear because I got tired of plugging them in and sending lines to it and then waiting for it to fail because sometimes stuff goes bad and this it just like I had a Universal Audio piece that I forgot what happened to it, but it was something actually. It was a known issue from the manufacturer, so they actually fixed the thing for free. But I had to ship it to California on a in a truck for 3,000 miles, hoping that it wouldn't get ripped to pieces. And it got a tiny little bit damaged. A little bit like one of the rack ears has a little chip on it. Who cares? Yeah. But it could have been worse.
And like how many times is that going to happen over the course of your It can be stressful.
That's scary.
Was it the 610 preamp EQ?
It was the 4710.
Oh, okay.
And what was happening was the output was very low and and there was no headroom, so it was really distorted. And I took it to my buddy because I'm like, maybe it's something on my end, on my system. Let me just take it. And he goes, oh no, dude, this needs some work. And it wound up being like some kind of output transformer or some kind of I'm not exactly sure what it was. Maybe some caps or I don't even know what's in it. But they fixed it, and they're great over there,
Yeah, for sure.
I know you use the Apollo, right?
I stick to the Apollo for all my like home-based stuff. And now, like we were just talking about before the podcast, like the plugins are getting insanely good. So it's like I find myself I find that I'm going less and less to the studio.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, well, this works great.
Yeah. It's like I wake up, I fire up my computer, and my studio's ready to go.
Right. I love the Apollo. I think they've really trailblazed this path of just like amazing analog emulations at relatively affordable prices. I think they're just doing a great job.
Oh yeah. And you know what? They're very nice over there. You know, I used to work in music retail, so I used to call them all the time, and they would always hook me up with employee accommodations, and they were really sweet, and they would make sure you had everything. You know, if customers had any issue, like they were really involved. You know, they weren't
really
like
nice.
They weren't like, oh yeah, listen, just keep buying our stuff and leave us alone. Like they really cared, you know.
That's really nice, because I definitely know some companies that go the other way that have been in the industry for a long time. So
I know it's sad. It's sad when that happens. Yeah.
But like, so wait, you're not using a lot of outboard gear now? Like, what's your setup?
So basically what I have at the studio here is I have 24 IO. So I'm using 2 Focusrite interfaces and a Universal Audio 710D, which also is sends 8 channels of ADAT. Mm-hmm. So altogether that makes 24 ins and outs. So what I do is I just use the preamps. I have a couple outboard preamps.
Nice.
I have a couple channel strips that have some compression in it, but to be honest with you, I never really use compression going in. I'm once in a while if I'm recording an acoustic guitar or like a real dynamic vocalist, but most of the time I'm just using the Slate FG116, which is the 1176.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And it's
Love the
awesome.
Slate plugins. I really like the Slate plugins. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. I really like them too because you can track through them without latency. You know. So in terms of hardware, I just have like, you know, it's really just all front end stuff. The mics are going into the pre's, and everything's going into Logic. I have my template set up with all my my channel
Routing
strips,
and
you know.
stuff. Yeah.
Routing, effects. I mean, when I fire up my template, all my effects are there. Everything is ready to go. So when the band's ready, I just go, okay, you guys ready? Boom, press record, and it's like, hey, I'm going through my Neves. I'm going through my, you know, like it's cool. And listen. I couldn't have done this, you know, without a computer. It would cost me millions of dollars. You know?
For sure.
Thank the heavens for computers.
Oh, dude, for sure. So, I didn't know you were a Logic guy. For some reason, I had in my head you were a Pro Tools guy.
You know, I used to work at a studio in the city, and I was actually using Cubase, and I really loved it. But the guys are like, "Hey, dude, you got to learn Logic like yesterday," because everything that they were doing was in Logic. So I said, "Okay." So I had a copy. You know, I learned to use it, and now it's home. You know.
Yeah.
I never really worked in Pro Tools.
Interesting.
Maybe I've been to studios that do, and
sure.
it's great, you know, but I don't have a lot of hands-on experience with Pro Tools.
Yeah, I'm the same with Logic. I've done a little bit of Logic, but Pro Tools is home for me. I mean, I actually really am starting to like Ableton, which is
yeah,
dude,
yeah. Ableton's got some cool stuff, man.
It's pretty dope. I mean, like to the point where, so I mean, I teach at SAE, so part of it was like I had to teach Ableton. And so I took like a bunch of months to really just study it down. And when I started to study, I was like, man, this is really good. To the point where I'm considering even like trying a couple of projects just purely Ableton, just out of curiosity.
You can do it, man. You know, if it feels good, then do it. You know.
Yeah, it is about feeling good and workflow for sure.
Absolutely. You know, my whole mentality when I'm working is like, I really want all the tech stuff completely out of the way, you know. Right. I just want to focus on the music, you know, and I don't want the artist to think about anything tech either. Yeah, you know, I want to have everything ready. So that's why I like to have a lot of inputs, because I have everything set up. You know, everything is ready. So like if a singer's like, hey, all right, cool, I want to lay down some keys. Okay, I want to lay down some bass. I want to lay down some guitar. I want to lay down some drums. Like they can just sit down and I can just do it. You know, I don't have to go, okay, give me 10 minutes while I set this up.
Right.
So I kind of keep it, I kind of keep my computer as like a big mixing board, everything is always plugged in, and it's like, cool, you want this track, awesome, let's do it.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, it's definitely helpful when you can not worry about the tech. I can't remember, I was watching a podcast, and this really cool engineer, I think his name was Mukul, he's from India, ironically, because we're
I don't know of him.
No, I think he's like in the New Delhi circuit. He's like very well known over there. He works at a studio called Ferris Wheel Studios,
nice.
And he was saying like that is kind of his mentality as well, which is like when the artist comes in, he wants to let them know right off the bat that like you worry about your performance and your vibe and everything. Don't worry about anything else. And if anything goes wrong, I'll
handle it.
I'll handle it. Or like, it was like the way he put it, I wish I could like regurgitate it, but like the way he put it was really just like fascinating. And because that's what it's all about, right? At the end of the day, is capturing that energy and that performance.
Yeah. The magic happens out in the live room,
Yeah.
And our job is just to oversee it, not get in the way. And if we hear something we can enhance, we could try it.
Right.
Like what the way I like to do it is since I have all my VCA faders all ready to go, my mix groups all ready to go, my effects ready to go. While they're tracking, I'm starting to mix already. So when they come in, they can be like, "Oh man, that snare sounds huge," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's a pretty nice plate reverb, right?" And they're like, "Yeah," it's like, 'cause it's like it's ready to go, or sometimes they're like, "Hey, dude, you gotta lower the reverb," and I'm like, "Oh, sorry."
It's my 80s coming out of me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love anything Mutt Lange recorded and produced. That's my stuff, man. I love that stuff.
That's amazing.
Def Leppard, Scorpions.
Scorpions, yeah.
Highway to Hell.
All right. Okay.
He did Highway to Hell.
There you go.
Dude. Yeah, so I love that stuff.
So wait, when did you start engineering them? Like, was it while you were a musician or before?
Yeah, I remember. I almost remember the day it happened. Well, okay, so
wow.
I work in the basement of my parents' house. So when me and my brother were kids, we would set up our little amps. He had my dad's old Fender Twin, which is kind of a monster amp. And I had a little small bass amp, and we'd practice. And then we started jamming with our friends, and I was talking to my dad. I said, "Hey, Dad, I think I want to learn how to play the drums." And he goes, "I got a drum set in the attic." And I said, "Really?" So we went and we got it, and it needed some work, it needed some parts and stuff. We got what we needed, so we had a drum set down here. So we started having rehearsals down here with our friends, and then we started doing recordings with boom boxes. So then I remember, when the boombox, and what we would do is we'd use like two boomboxes. So we'd record the band with one, and then we'd play that back into another boombox where the track would be playing, and then the guy would sing into the boombox close. It was really low. It was really lo-fi.
I love it.
Yeah. So then, my dad's like, listen, let's get a little mixing board, and we'll just do everything to 2-track. Because my dad's kind of he's not a really recording engineer, but he's electronics engineer, and he's been in sound. He's a serious hobbyist and a musician, so he wanted to get us started. So I remember that's how we were recording. I just put some SM58s on the drums, and everything was like mixed to 2-track, So I had to get the balance. If we wanted more kick, I had to raise the fader, and then hit record on my little. I still have it, a little M Audio mobile pre. It was like a 2-channel.
Wow.
And I was like, I need 4 channels. I need 8 channels. And then next thing you know, you're in the money pit. You're just like, take my money, make me sound good.
Dude, that's hilarious.
I mean, how true is it, right?
Dude, my mentor, one of my mentors had this. The way he put it was so funny. Like I would go to him all the time and ask like, "Oh man, what do you think about this mix?" Or like, "How do you shape that? How do you do this?" And "Oh, how did you do that?" And like we're like learning all his moves, learning all his EQ things. And I remember once we were having a conversation, and he's like, "Don't worry, dude. Look, I've been through the same thing as you. You know, I went through years and years of trying to like figure out, oh, how do I make stuff sound like a record? How do I make things punch hard and make, you know, soundscapes sound great? And like after years and years of just trying and trying, I finally realized what I needed, and that's $1 million studio.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, for me, I always feel it's like my ears have changed, you know? And my ears are still changing. So what I thought sounded good 15 years ago, you know, it didn't sound... I've actually been going back because I've been archiving all my stuff. Nice. But I've been going back and I've been like, you know, I didn't do too bad in the tracking, but I was horrible at mixing, you know? So sometimes I'll pull it up and I'll just simplify everything. You know, I'll just and it's amazing how my ears have changed, and I go like, oh, now I hear things that I didn't hear, and there's frequencies that bother me, and so I feel like it's always kind of like, you know, really what it comes down to is just time. You have to just put in the time. I mean, there's no other way. You know, I mean, the gear helps.
Yeah, the gear obviously helps, but knowing how to use them, the ear training is a huge part of it. I think a lot of people get frustrated because they realize it's not about the tools. At some point, they realize like, oh, wait a second, I actually have to train these ears over here in my head, and like how, you know, images can like trick me and frequencies can trick me into hearing certain things, and that's why like the more experience you gain in this field, the more, you know, credible, the more income you start to make because you have the experience. And unfortunately you can't teach experience, you have to go through it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's always good for young engineers to intern or even just hang out in the studio and learn and see the pitfalls that can happen and see how to remedy them fast. I know that I have like a little thing in my studio is like, if somebody asks me for something and I don't have it, that's going to be the last time that's ever going to happen. You know, because if that person's gonna ask me for something, someone else is gonna ask me for the same thing. So I go out and I gotta buy it, or you know, whatever it is. You know, I mean, like something even as simple as like a coffee machine. You know, it's like, you know, sure, I could send them down the block, but why waste time? I'll make it for them. You know, and everybody, you know, so. Or, you know, all kinds of stuff where somebody goes, oh, well, listen, I don't take real sugar, but I want Splenda. You have Splenda? And I go, yes, I have Splenda now. You know? Somebody asked me for it once, and now I got it.
That's a great attitude to have, man. Very cool.
I mean, you know what it is? It's like, you know, in our business, you know, we're working with very delicate artists.
Yeah.
And anything can set them off. Anything can set them off and ruin the vibe, you know. I mean, it could be something as silly as like not having coffee.
Yeah, or not having Splenda. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's something silly like that, but it's like, you know, when our job is to make everybody feel as comfortable as they can feel. You know, the studio can be a stressful place. It's, you know, a lot of people bite off a lot more than they could chew. They want to get, you know, 10 songs down in a day, and it's like, realistically, you know, if we get rhythm tracks for two tunes, or maybe even 2 tunes down, like, that would be awesome.
That's a win, yeah.
That's a win, you know. So I feel like when people are comfortable and they're relaxed and they could really focus on the work and not focus on the environment at all, that's when our job is less walking on eggshells and more, hey, let's make this the best work we've ever made, you know?
Yeah. Dude, definitely. I mean, that is when it becomes why we got into it in the first place, which is like creating some awesome shit at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, and just having fun. I mean, what's more fun in life than being in a band? I mean, you're basically horsing around with your buddies, right? You're going from town to town. You stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing you guys have in common with the place really is that you're all in the same band, and you all have the same set. So you guys are like a unit, but you're in a new place, and you're like, dude, this is an adventure. You know, it's fun.
Yeah, all you have is each other, and it's like, let's go have an adventure. And that, you put it really well. That's a really
It's like a road trip, right? I mean, that's what it is. It's a road trip with a little bit of extra work. Yeah, a little bit of extra gear and a little bit of stress, hoping nobody steals my gear. Please, don't steal my gear.
So were you in a band for a while?
Yeah, I've been playing in a couple bands. On average, I usually play in about 3 bands at a time, and they all usually the schedules don't overlap, which is good, or we'll just play shows together. Which is great because especially in South Brooklyn and in Brooklyn in general, but especially South Brooklyn, everybody knows everybody. Right. So and everybody's played with everybody. So it's like, oh, dude, you're in a band with that kid? Yo, awesome, man. I used to be in a band with them. You know what? If you need a guitar player, let me know. Everybody's in cahoots. So since the pandemic, a couple of my bands, they haven't disbanded, but it's been very hard to get together. One of my good buddies, he got married, he had a kid, he moved to Jersey, and it's going to be hard for him to come down. So, when he's able to come down, or if we're able to go down to Jersey, we'll do it. I'd be happy if we did it like once a month. And it'd be great if we could I'll just let it roll and we'll just try to get a song down in 4 hours. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of them are kind of defunct. So I started playing with a couple of my buddies, and we just been in the rehearsals, sweating it out, and writing some stuff. And I feel like it's been a real rebirth in creativity for everybody. And I feel for me, I'm able to push myself to levels I've never really been at. So I could I have the time to hone in and learn some stuff and really do some research and try to just practice and just get to a point where it's like, oh yeah, this feels good under my hands. This is this beat is not scaring me.
Yeah,
this is in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, dude, this pandemic definitely changed a lot. I think it definitely tested the strength of a lot of relationships. And obviously, what it's like when you're in a band. It really is like a 4 or 5 way relationship.
You're married.
Yeah,
you're married basically. You're married to 4 guys.
Yeah, it's like
and all their insecurities,
all their all their goals, their hopes, their dreams, their lives that exist outside of the band that they have to take care of. Their wives, their girlfriends, their jobs, and that kind of becomes part of the thing. And yeah, it was. I would agree with that. I think a lot of bands just either had to take a break and just step away, or they just decided to call it quits. And I mean, I don't blame them, to be completely honest. It's just rough times.
We do music. I do music as therapy. It's something that I've always relied on. It's something that's always made me feel better, and even in times when I can't move and I can't go anywhere, we can't rock, we can't play gigs, I always have this feeling like at least I can create, at least I can learn, at least I could try to practice and just take the time and use it constructively and have some fun, man. I mean, why else are we doing it?
Right. I think I actually went through a pretty, I don't know if it was during the pandemic or I went through a bit of a dark period where it was just I was really not excited by music anymore. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but when you're in the business that we're in and it's you're surrounded by music all the time, and to my fault, I'm also on Instagram and just scrolling through sick guitar players and drummers, and it's music. It started to become really a fucking nuisance. I went like that for a couple of months, I would say, where I was not excited by it.
Yeah, I think that having burnout is a real thing, and a lot of times, sometimes I go away for a few days, and I'm away from the console, I'm away from my drum kit, and I'm listening to a lot of music on the radio, and I get re-inspired, and I go oh wow, okay, so this was made in '77. Okay, so I'm guessing that they use this, this snare, this mic, this compressor, this EQ, or that, I just get inspired. I kind of I'm not sitting behind the desk. So I like to I could listen and I can go, but yeah, no, totally, man. Burnout is real. And there's times in our business where we work 8 days a week, and there's also times when we work 0 days in 2 weeks. So there's either times where you're slammed or you're like, man, I hope somebody comes. I I hope somebody comes in because I mean, there's only so much guitar playing I can do.
Right. That's a great way of putting it.
I mean, but it's very easy to get burnt out. And
have you ever been through that, or like you go through it? Yeah.
I go through it. But you know what? Lately, I feel like I've been burnt out so much that I'm like so used to it that whenever somebody comes in to do something, or even if it's something like simple, like even if it's just like what I call like a clerical audio work, like, hey man, can you clean this up? I recorded this on in the field and it's got a little wind noise and it needs to, I want to hear the dialogue a little more. Even that's kind of inspiring because you listen to it and you're like, wow, I can imagine the place. So so what do I have to do here? I got to make this guy sound clear, and wow, her mic is loud. I got to lower her. Like it's kind of like I don't know. It's like it sounds kind of corny, but it's kind of like a little journey into what happened that day.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think what you said about that particular example is that like when you have different types of projects, it can be exciting. It doesn't become as repetitive,
Yes. Yeah, I'm very lucky in the fact that like some days I'll record like I'll run the gamut. Like sometimes I'll record like Haitian gospel, or sometimes I'll record like satanic black metal. I mean, it's like two totally different worlds, And I gotta, I have to be willing and ready to do whatever that job needs. Yeah. If it means going out and partying and getting really food wasted on pizza and like, oh man, we ate too much pizza. That's just part of the gig that day. Or if I have, or sometimes I work with like kids, Kids. Yeah. I've worked with kids like as young as maybe like 11. Mm-hmm. And when you're working with a kid, I mean, I take it very seriously where I want them to have a good time, because if they're stressed, they're gonna hate the studio.
Right.
I want it to be like, oh, wow, this is fun. Wow, that's me. It's like, yeah, you're doing this. What am I doing? I'm just pressing record. You're doing it. Like that's like it makes me excited. Dude, I get excited. But yeah, no, I've definitely experienced burnout, and the only remedy for me is to just try to take a few days off. And I like to travel. I mean, obviously not right now, but I like to travel, and I like to listen to music in the car. Listen to full albums. I'm one of those guys. I like to listen to full albums.
Interesting.
I don't know what it is. I like a lot of 70s prog and stuff. Yeah. So I want to, I'm like, wow, these guys did this, on tape, and they didn't have the flexibility I have. And listen to the way it sounds. It's incredible. I have to learn how to do this, And I feel like that's kind of my my fire under my ass, that just keeps me inspired.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really into like the soundscapes of different eras and like even the technology behind them. So now it's making more and more sense as to why you became an engineer. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, my job has always been to just facilitate what the artist wants, and a lot of times they have a basic idea, and of course when we work with artists that have vision, it makes everything easier. But sometimes they're like, yeah, I need it to sound bigger. So, sometimes I'll reach for a verb, sometimes I'll reach for a delay, or sometimes, I really don't know what it's going to need,
Right.
But I'm like, how's this? And they're like, oh, yeah. That's cool. Like sometimes you just kind of have to make not executive decisions, but you have to just take some you got to make some big moves and see if you're going in the right direction, because they can't put it into words. Right. They have to hear it, and they, So I that's one thing that I always strive for, is just like, listen, man, you're the artist. You let me know what you like, but if you can't put it into words, then I'm having trouble right now putting it into words. If you can't put it into
words, that's a reverb on you, bro.
Yeah. Then you know what? I'm gonna try some wild stuff and see if it inspires you to inspire me, so we inspire each other.
It is a discovery process for sure, very much a discovery process. So like that means you're also tapping into the producer role in a way, like you kind of border that line.
Yeah, well, a lot of the artists I work with, some of them have never been to the studio before, never been to any studio before. Some of them have extensive recording experience, which makes it a lot. In some ways, it makes it easier for them. In some ways, it makes it a lot harder because then they start zooming into the tech end and they kind of lose focus. But yeah. So sometimes a guy will show up with his guitar and he's like, "Okay, I got my guitar." So I'm like, "Cool. What amp you want to play through?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know." So I'm like, "All right, let me hear the song." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. So let's try this, and how about this little drive, and how's this little thing, and this little thing, and this delay?" And they go, "Yeah, I like it," or "I hate it," and I go, "Okay, well, let's restart."
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get everything right,
That's
but I'm gonna try to have a nice sonic palette for them to pick and choose. And if we're going in the right direction, you could see it on their face. You could see it. You could see the inspiration when they're playing guitar and they're like, "Oh, I guess it's okay." That's not the right tone. If it's "Ooh, yeah, I sound like Venom, man. Yeah." It's like,
you can
"Dude,
tell.
I sound like Slayer." And you're like, "Yeah."
You can tell.
But yeah, so I guess I'm like what you call like a default producer, I'm just I'm working with the artist and they're like, "Hey, can you make it sound good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but we got to work together. We got to find out which direction we want to go."
Yeah, and do you base that, I guess you just said it, but like you base it off of the feedback of the artist, whether it's facial feedback or verbal feedback. You're not the kind of producer to, or even the engineer to
my way or the highway?
Yeah, enforce your sound on somebody. Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm kind of with you on that.
But if I see something that's going to be a potential pitfall,
right,
I'll tell them. Right. Like, some guys, they don't want to tune up their guitars. And I go, "Dude, you really should tune up your guitar." And they're like, "No, it's good." No, trust me. When you want to add stuff, it's gonna be a nightmare. But no, what I like to do is I just like to A/B things. If I'm working with a guitar player, let's say like a young guitar player doesn't really have his sound dialed in yet, in his head, I'll just have him in the control room. He'll listen to the speakers, and I'll go, "Here's A," and it could be like a tube screamer at like 9 o'clock, and here's B, and here's a tube screamer at 2 o'clock, and he'll listen and he'll be like, "Okay, I like B better," and he has no idea or she has no idea what I'm doing. So I'll tell him, I'll be like, "Okay, so that's B, so we like a little more gain." So this way, when they leave and they come back next time or they go somewhere else, they kind of know what they like. They're learning their preferences. There's a lot of variables in the studio.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
So I just try to be honest with you. I just try to stay out of the way, and I just want everybody to have a little fun and try to make the best art they can make.
That's really cool, dude. And you have a live room too, correct?
Yeah.
Like you can do drums, guitars, bass.
Yeah. So basically, I'm in my control room right now. It's pretty small. I could fit about maybe 3 or 4 people in here comfortably, and that's about it.
Yeah.
In the live room, I could fit about maybe 7 people.
Nice.
So everybody has their little stations. I got the drums in the live room. The bass player is hanging out by their rig. I got a keyboard station. Then I have kind of an open floor where the guitar players can stand. But all their amps are isolated. So so for the bass, I'm going through a DI, and I'm also going into a Harkey bass amp, going into a 15-inch cab, and that's mic'd up in another room. And then I have 3 guitar ISO booths, so everybody has their amp their amp is isolated, but they're all in the same room. So they're all, so it feels like rehearsal to them, except that they're wearing headphones, of course.
Yeah.
But I try to make it so they feel like, oh, wait a second, the studio is not that much different than rehearsal. You know, if we play it like we've been playing it, maybe we can get a good take, you know? And let's say somebody messes up, well, it's okay. We'll just punch that part. You know, it's you're isolated. You're not bleeding into the drum mics.
Nice.
We can fix it, you know? But yeah, so I have my little live room there, which is their little safe haven, and then sometimes I have a producer in here with me, or the artist's girlfriend, you know.
Yeah. For sure. No, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I try to encourage people to not bring their significant others when possible.
Yeah. I know.
Sometimes you can't help it, like. Oh, but she has the car today, so I gotta.
Yeah. And like, you know, the whole entourage, you know.
Yeah.
I was recording a band recently, and I kept getting up to answer the door, and I'm like, who else is coming? I'm like, we got a drummer here, we got a bass player here, we got a guitar player here, we got a keyboard player here, we got a singer here. So it's just like basically like it's just their friends, you know. And I'm like, listen, you know what? Listen, you want to make this the party spot? Let's party, dude.
Yeah.
You know, let's eat good. Let's make some art. Let's make some music. Let's have some fun. Sure, you want to bring your friends, but I gotta tell you guys, you gotta be quiet because we're doing work here.
Right. That's amazing. I've definitely done a lot of those like party sessions, but I find myself definitely wanting to go the other route of like, hey, let's keep it focused while we're here, and then, you know, afterwards we can go hang out, go get dinner together, you know, but like just while we're here, let's try to keep it chill, but also like get the goal as well.
Yeah. Let's work. Yeah. I was recording a band a few months ago, and they wanted to start at 7, you know. And I said, you know, to be honest with you guys, 7's a little late because your 7 to 10 easily goes to 7 to 1 or 2 a.m. So I say, hey, you know, maybe we'll do this on a weekend if you're off. And they're like, oh yeah, we're off. Why don't we start at noon? You know. So we started noon.
I do the same.
Right. We start at noon, and then listen, if we go to 8, that's cool. You know. Yeah. But some people, man, I mean, they come in here and they bring, they'll bring a bottle and they'll be like, listen, by the end of the night, I'm finishing this bottle.
Raisha does that.
Oh yeah. And you know what? I mean, you know, I've had some kind of what I call I don't want to call it babysitting sessions, but sessions where I have my eye on the live room because as they're swinging around, I'm grabbing mics, I'm grabbing glasses from breaking, you know, I'm watching bulbs, I'm watching cymbals, I'm watching cups of liquid, I'm watching amps, you know, because the last thing you need are people destroying your stuff. But you know what? God. If that's how they live their lives, then if that's what inspires them to make good art, then who am I to say no? You know,
I get it.
But I also have to. I have to maintain my space.
Right.
But not the website. I have to watch. I gotta watch because in the end, that hurts us more than it helps us. You know.
Yeah.
So you're right. No. You're right, man.
It's for sure. It's that balancing act, and I think I call them babysitting sessions sometimes. And I get it. I totally get what you're talking about. And it was more so when I worked at Engine Room, this studio downtown, where it was like there was like certain sessions where it was like we want a great sounding classical recording, and it was just about the work. And then there were other sessions where it's like me and my boys are gonna hang out and we're gonna throw up a microphone and maybe we record. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like it's really loose, you know.
Yeah, and I like both of them. But I think, especially over the years, I've gotten less with the like let's hang out and more with the like let's do something cool together.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like focus. And it's all up to like personal preference, and yeah, I guess it's just and that's the cool thing because there's so many engineers and there's so many artists, like you can find there's no like need to be the guy for every band. Like, you can
Absolutely.
find your artist, you can find your engineer.
Absolutely.
Like, there is a fit for everybody. It's like, that's what I love about especially Brooklyn. But there's like this sense of community that, you know, I just love it so much.
And you know, every studio has a vibe. Every studio has a certain clientele. You know, and I feel like that's what makes creative spaces so much fun, because, you know, and like, you know, I always love when I'm working with artists who has a lot of experience going to different places, or some of them, if I'm really lucky, they'll take me with them and I'll get to hang out and see how other people do it. And for me, that's the best, because I'm like, you know, I never thought about that. That's a good way to do it. Let me try it. Or you know, or like, okay, I see this is a pitfall here. Let me make sure I can avoid this at all costs. You know, it's always a learning experience. You know, but I feel I had an opportunity to work at a studio with a very specific clientele, but you know, it wasn't for me. I think that
how long have you? Did you ever like intern at a studio? You said you did, right?
Yeah, I interned at a studio in the city. It was Sound Machine with it was a band called Shinobi Ninja. It was it was their studio.
Yeah, I know those guys. Dave?
Yeah, those guys are great.
Or Duke. Sorry.
Yeah, Duke. Yeah. And Duke's here all the time. I mean, he moved to Mass, but when he's in town, we always try to jam and try to record something just to have a little fun. I mean,
he's awesome.
No pressure. No, it's just us guys just having a little fun on a weekday afternoon. My days off. You know. But I mean, so I worked there. I also assisted at my buddy's studio on the Slope, Peter Carl's audio services, and we used to record. Big bands. We used to record gospel choruses, orchestras. He had a very, very big space, and unfortunately, he's not there anymore. But he's working at a bunch of other studios. But I mean, I really enjoyed going like, okay, I have this stuff at home, but this guy's using it differently, or this job, you know, requires a whole different setup, you know, and it's inspiring. You know, you go home and you're like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try to put my my rooms in mid-side and see what happens.
Yeah.
And see if I like it.
Yeah.
And most of the time, you're like, dude, I'm glad I went.
Yeah, you're always learning.
Always, man.
So how long have you had the space right now that you're in, the studio space?
Okay, I've been recording here since about 2005-ish.
Holy crap.
It's been, I mean, just me as a kid, you know, 15 years old, recording a couple of my buddies, my bands, you know, not doing that great, you know, just kind of getting my feet wet in what audio, what it entails, you know.
Experience, you got to.
But I used to work in music retail, and I worked there for like 8 years, and I loved it. And while I was there, I was building my studio. I was buying the stuff I needed. I was practicing a lot. But I started getting opportunities to work full time at the studio. You know, I'd work a Saturday. I'd work an 8-hour session, and I said, you know, if it starts getting like this, then I'm gonna attempt to quit this retail job and see if it works out. And I kind of just took the plunge in 2013, and I made an LLC, and I tried to invest a lot of time and effort, and whatever funds I would get from the bands, I try to put it back into the place. So I've been like officially in business since 2013. Dude. But I've been recording since I've been 14, 15, just learning, and still, man. I mean, I remember Aisha was showing me the record you guys cut a few years ago, and she played it for me. And the first thing I heard with the drums, I heard the beautiful compression and how everything just jumped. And I said, wow, man, Jeet knows how to make this. He knows how to make these guys rock, and of course they rock on their own. But like, you really brought out like just beautiful sonics, and like, so for me, it's always a learning experience. I always like to talk to engineers and learn from them and try new things, you know. My personal way of working is I try not to overcomplicate things. I basically have, for all my sessions, I use the same template because it's just a really good starting point for me, and I have really just 8 faders that everything comes down to. It's just drums, it's bass, it's rhythm guitar, it's auxiliary guitars, it's guitar solos, it's keyboards, vocals, and background vocals. It's just 8 faders that I have to make the mix work. I can have, 64 faders, in front of it, but I try not to get distracted by that. I try to just say, like, listen, if we were working on an analog desk and we had 8 faders, we had 8 tracks to make this work, what would I do? Right. So I come from the school of like the top-down mixing and I try to be subtle when I can. I try to be aggressive when I can. I mean, I just kind of want things to be simple, because when things get a little too complicated, then the tech's in the way and you're in the way of the music and you can't work. Exactly. And you're not doing any favors to anybody. The artist is not happy that they're sitting around waiting for you to figure something out. Right. So I try to weed that out of my life early on in my career, and I feel like I have it down to a science where I let the tech do its thing. I'm there if something happens, but my eyes are locked on the artist and what they're trying to do. And that's kind of my goal,
Dude, that's amazing. So like 8 years. This is going on 8 years, right? Like
I guess.
In business.
I guess, amazing. Yeah. And I work in rock and roll, man. I don't, I'm not a rich guy, but I have to say, man, I really enjoy my life, and I enjoy the fact that I get to work with really great artists, because I'm not really an artist myself. I'm a drummer, I'm a sideman, but I'm the last guy to ever be like, "Hey guys, I wrote this. Let's do it." It's not me. I don't write. I don't do that. When I don't have clients in the studio is just it's nothing's going on. It's just, I mean, sometimes I'll get bored and I'll rip things apart and rebuild them and try to enhance them or work on some sonics. But I'm not sitting here like, oh, dude, I'm writing songs. I'm not that guy. I just don't have the writer's bug. I'm really a side man, and I'm just here to facilitate the tech for when the real artists come. I can hopefully do anything that they want me to do. So except putting mics in the toilet. I stopped doing that. It cost me way too much money. No.
Did they ask you that?
I mean, we get questions like that.
Sure. Yeah, I've definitely heard some crazy questions. Dude, that's really awesome, dude. No, and look, I mean, I've been a fan of your work for a long time. I mean, I've heard of, I think we might have met like in 2014 or 15 when I went to that.
Yeah.
Came to that show. So I've always been a fan of your stuff, and I've seen a bunch of people recording at your space. I've seen, obviously, I just heard the thing you did with Grey Hunter, which is awesome for the Olympic something. So I was like, I think
they killed it, man.
Yeah, no, not only that, I think you killed it too. I think you guys are a great team. Like,
thank you, man.
It was like I was so happy when they told me that like they were good, because I told them like I couldn't do 2 records, I could only do 1. Yeah. And I know because I know those guys, and I know Raisha, and we've had many conversations just outside of things. When I heard that they were doing it with you, I was like, yes. They're gonna be just fine.
I was happy when, dude, I was so happy when they told me that they had time booked with you. And I was like, Raisha, listen, I want to come. Can you ask Jeet if I can come by and hang out?
Dude, of course, you're always welcome.
And because I know that we would just hang out, and we we would just really just enjoy the process, you know.
Dude, next time we track, you should come just hang out, whether it's at my place or the studio. Just come hang out.
Dude, I would love to, man. I would love to. You know, my buddy is cutting a record out in Park Slope, and he asked me. He's like, hey, dude, you want to come? And I'm like, really? I can come by? And he's like, of course, I want you by. You know. And I said, like, I'm honored, you know, because I just, you know, for me, it's just a way for me to meet, you know, like-minded people, you know, like-minded engineers. I mean, you know, we're in a very niche field, you know, and.
Right.
To be honest with you, audio is only supplemental to video. You know, we only one piece of the puzzle. I mean, the video is really what people see, what people need. You know, your grandma's gonna ask you, "Are you on YouTube?" You know, I mean, you know, they're not gonna say, "Oh yes, I got my Spotify account all loaded up." Like they don't care about that. So you know, I find that, you know, when I work with other engineers in audio, it's like we can just kind of like hang and party and just talk about like, wow, we like our job is pretty crazy, right?
That's why I do this podcast, because we get it. We just
dude, it's so cool. And you know what? I love it. I really respect it because you know, you're in the audio community where, you know, you're really working in the audio community. And you're giving back to the audio community by sharing your insight, by talking to engineers, and you know, which every engineer has their side and their experience, and it's you know, it's really all part of the process of making art and just having a good time, you know. In this time that we live in, I mean, we're able to run studios and do large sessions with very little gear, you know. So let's embrace it, let's enjoy it, you know.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I definitely don't do the podcast I never thought about it as like it was giving back to the community, but like it's what you said about when you're hanging out with engineers, like you said, it's such a niche field, and like there's so many inside jokes, which I'm sure we just like over the past hour we must have said so many inside jokes that only engineers will understand. Like they get it, and like I just think it's awesome to communicate with that and like just see somebody else's side, because one, they'll get it, and two, maybe it'll refine my idea of what like engineering is about, you know. And like even personally, like I learned so much just from talking to different engineers, like from you. Like
that's why we do it, man.
Exactly. I mean, just like you said, you know, going and hanging out with engineers, it's awesome because you start to see things like, oh, that's cool, maybe I should try that, or oh man, that's weird, maybe I should fix that. It's like I learned so much from just talking to people, and like it's so much fun just to hang around.
I don't have that low end on my bass. What am I doing wrong? Oh, they're using that? All right, time to upgrade.
It is a very specific type of person who will ask that kind of question, like who actually cares. Like, you know, I think my buddy said, it's like there's very few people who will listen to a snare, turn a knob, and be like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, I have very, very little experience in live audio. Live sound is like a beast on its own, and I've had the opportunity to be, you know, to play some makeshift venues, some festivals with these guys, and I mean, they're incredible. They go like 815 hertz. You know what I mean? Like they're nuts. I mean, they're nuts. So you know, and of course what they do is what we do on hyperspeed, you know. Yeah. And they, you know, and in some way, I'm not going to say it's easier, because it's definitely not. It's much harder in my opinion.
Right.
But in some ways it's like, you know, some things can, you know, like, all right, there's a little feedback here, or something's a little, you know, whatever. It's a moment in time that has passed.
Yeah.
With us, is like we're gonna be playing it back 1,000 times.
Forever.
So
yeah.
So you know that we can't afford to make those kinds of mistakes.
Right. No, totally agree. I've only done very, very little live engineering, and like the little that I did. Man. Yeah, dude, it is like that level of stress that you rarely feel being a studio engineer, because like you said, but at the same time, the stress level is so high because you have to be super present and aware of everything. but there's also like a forgiving side because, like you said, the moment has passed and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think, as it depends on the type of person you are, but like you also have to be the kind of person to forgive yourself and be like, okay, I fucked up, and like, all right, oh well, let's do good now, And you know what? That happens even to studio engineers. There are records that I have done over the years that I'm like, you fucking idiot, why did you do that then? Like you should have. That's how you learn.
Yeah, one time I did a session with one of my good buddies now, but I had never met him before. And he booked 7 hours, and I told him, I said, that's a lot to do in the studio, and he's like, oh, no, this is just the way we do it, And like the band shows up. He didn't show up till like 3 hours late. He was 3 hours late, and then they're telling me, oh man, do you know this guy? I'm like, no, like, oh, you're in for a trip, So I'm like freaking out, like I hope this guy's not gonna destroy my stuff, like you get a little anxiety,
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did a session, and the guitar player talks to the drummer, dude, I haven't seen you in a year. So I'm thinking to myself, they haven't practiced in a year. Right? But so I kind of was trying to get the best out of it, and at a certain point I just kind of like did the worst thing an engineer can do, is just, okay, I'm just gonna hit the red button and just let the chaos happen, So I did it thinking like, oh well, these guys, they're still trying to get their stuff, together. So I don't know how much of this stuff is going to be a keeper, So I kind of let it roll, and then there was some problems. I didn't isolate the guitars well enough because I kind of just let it go, and I shouldn't have done it. But I felt like, okay, let's see what we can do. So little did I know that the band leader was going to spend 3 years working on these tracks. So I had tied my hands in so many ways, because I just kind of, so now I'm a little bit more meticulous on my safety nets. I like to have a DI, I like to have a couple little things just in case the guys go, you know what? I liked the guitar sound here, but I need a little more something else. I want to use an amp simulator too. Like I like having the flexibility. But right. I find that it's sometimes you have to think about the pitfalls, and I try not to make any pitfalls for myself. I mean, why would I shoot myself in the own foot? In my own foot. So now I'm so I think everything that you do, good, bad, whatever, it's a learning experience, and my goal is the end justifies the means. Let's make the best record we can make. And hey, listen, if you're not a good drummer and you're sloppy and you record your drums and I try to fix it and you play it back 5 years from now, you're like, man, I sucked. Well, in 5 years, you've probably been a lot better. Now you've actually seen your progress.
Progression. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that stuff. Like recording a moment in time, right? As the band is right now. I get it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've always it's just the old learn from your mistakes kind of deal. But I try to do a lot of stuff behind the scenes on my own, testing things, trying different techniques, seeing the pitfalls, remedying the problems, because I feel like that should be done on my time and not on anybody else's time.
Right.
So when they get here, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And what's coming up for you? What's this year looking like?
Well, I started recording a lot of black metal recently.
Okay.
Which is
a lot of people got some feelings from the past year.
Yeah, and it's also like it's a very weird genre because it's a lo-fi genre. So on my kit, I have like 12 mics on my kit. I got kick in, kick out, snare top, snare bottom. I got 4 toms. I got overheads. I got room mics. But in black metal, sometimes we just use the room mic, crushed with verb. It's like it's good to have these things, but just because you have them doesn't mean you need them. And
right.
and if people give me references, or better yet, show me references while they're here, then we have a roadmap and a game plan of what we're gonna do technically. You know, so I'm starting to get into this like do more with less kind of thing, and I you know I'm starting to like it.
Dude, that's good.
I'm starting to like it. It's tricky though, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's just a certain point where people have a vision, and you know, you don't have to have all the toys and bells and whistles. You have to just, you know, if they want something dark and overdriven and lo-fi and washy, then give it to them. You know?
Right. They're the artist. Right.
Yeah. But
they're
my main genre is like alternative rock, metal, classic rock. You know,
nice.
More like anything that's like 4 or 5-piece band stuff. You know, so I have a lot of stuff in the down the pipeline, and I just every time I work on something, I learn stuff, and I just try to make it the best I can make it.
Dude, that's amazing, man. I mean, yeah, you're really one of the solid engineers out there in Brooklyn, and
thanks, man.
Yeah, no.
Well, I really respect everything you do, man. And like I said, when I heard those drums on that recording, I was like, dude, I literally jumped out of my seat, and I said, holy crap, that's how you compress a drum kit, baby.
I remember. I think the EP. I think the EP starts with drums, which is the funniest thing in the world. Dude, it was
huge, man. It was huge. I got freaking goosebumps, man.
I gotta go listen to it. It's been so long since I've listened to it.
Dude, you know that's another thing. You listen to stuff with fresh ears, and you go, I thought I might have done something wrong here, but actually, no, it sounds damn good. Right. You know, or like, crap, this sounds better than what I did last week. Yeah. Where did I go wrong?
It's the experience, bro. It is really the experience. It's a great life to have.
Jeet, I hate to tell you this, but my phone is like almost dying.
No, dude, it's all good. This is perfect because
I could talk to you all day.
I know we can, but next time I do a session, come hang out. I think it'll be a good time.
Dude, I would love to, man. I would just love to hang out, and you know, I love the sounds you get. I love the work you do. I love how friendly you are. It's obvious to me why people love to work with you. You know what I mean?
Dude, I could say literally the exact same thing about you. So very, very happy to have you on this podcast.
We're gonna party, dude.
Hell yeah.
Do some rock and roll.